Good morning and a happy Friday to all of you. Let's start off with the key market moves first. So the US markets had a skittish day, no big changes per se, but a 0.25% downtick on the S&P 500. The issue or the move that really happened in the 10-year yield. Look at that. That really moved. The 10-year yield was uh, at 4.18 or thereabouts. So that is where the real pressure for the markets came in the session yesterday, or not really the pressure, but the move in the market came yesterday. Otherwise, everything else was steady. I mean, the dollar index, of course, is no longer sub 100 as we stated now for the last few days, 102 now, and slowly inching higher. The gift nifty should be indicating a flattish start, maybe marginally positive, if you will. Now, the key is, yeah, marginally positive. The key is, viewers, what's happened to the 10-year yield. So in global news flow, what tops the news flow is the 10-year treasury yield has climbed as US investors or investors digest the US rating downgrade. Emerging economies Q2 GDP forecast declines, but India is seen at 7.4%. Saudis have extended the 1 million barrel oil cut and say that it can be deepened as well. So that gives a bit of a floor to the oil market, if you will. And white sugar premium climbed to 12-year highs on a demand rebound. Actually, the other thing that happened is that the Nasdaq futures are trading marginally in the green because both Apple and Amazon, their earnings have actually given a bit of a positive whiff to the street. So the global markets, if anything, are a bit more benign than what they have been for the last few days, and that might only aid the sentiment as we end the week, considering the fact that we've had 2 days of a cut as well. Now, what's the trade setup? Well, to my mind, indices are vulnerable after the swift uptick seen in the 10-year yields yesterday, but the Nifty is still above that critical 19,300 to 350 range, and today's trade is the key. Now, I know some people will say that we've been talking about how 19,500 was the key put support level, but as you would have heard in a conversation with CK Narayan and some of the other notes as well, that the previous swing low was at around 19,350. So a lot of people are talking about this being a key support, the key swing low being a key support. And if that is not violated, then the uptrend is in danger, yes, or under pressure, yes, but it's not broken as yet. So that's the point to keep in mind. Um, Pharma, I mean, in terms of sectors, downtick usually it's difficult to say, right? I mean, with what's happening to yields, etc., we've seen real estate stocks and the real estate index be under immense pressure. Results have been iffy as well. I mean, we've seen what's happened with Godrej Properties, for example, and kind of iffy despite the fact that they've maintained. So DLF, there was this block deal which kind of spoiled the trend there. So net, those spaces are difficult to kind of say what will happen, but pharmaceuticals remains the key, even in a dull trade yesterday. I mean, just look at what a Mankind Pharma did post its numbers, and look at good numbers, by the way, and look at what Lotus Labs did post its numbers. I mean, the numbers were not that great. The commentary, not necessarily the best commentary, but clearly people see value by virtue of the future growth, as a result of which Lotus was up about 5% in trade yesterday. And despite, like I said, abysmal earnings. So it's a sectoral move. It's not really necessarily restricted to one. But what Lupin has done today, what Mankind did yesterday in terms of quarterly delivery, probably leads people to believe that different pockets of healthcare might be important. Now, keep in mind, if you're thinking about pharma, at 8:30 today on Trade Talk, there will be a pharma analyst to give you some sense. And if you want to hear a really large investor, Quadria Capital, Amit Verma, Dr. Amit Verma, they are a private equity fund investing in healthcare across the Asia Pacific region. And I think it's a conversation that you don't want to miss, especially because pharma is in such a strong uptrend currently. It'd be lovely to hear from him as to how he thinks, how he's investing, and maybe we can take some lessons from there. So do tune in for that. I urge you to tune in for that. Fund flows, foreign investors have sold about 317 crores. DI has bought about 1729 crores. So no big moves on the fund flows piece, but yeah, I mean, important. Now I'm straight away moving to stocks to watch, because it's such a long list today of stocks that will react. So I'll take some time there. Starting off, first up on my plate at least is Zomato. Revenues up 70%, 2416. The expectations were 2261. here that the magic is begin for Zomato. EBITDA loss of 48 crores versus expectations of 205. Net profit 2 crores versus losses of 186. The estimated was loss of 177. Look at the highlights. It's a strong top line beat, of course, and good guidance. More importantly, it has turned break even ahead of guidance. It turned positive on PAT level ahead of the guidance of Q4 FY24. They've done it in Q1. Viewers, remember what happened to a Paytm when they did what they had guided 3 quarters ahead. Zomato has done exactly that. More importantly, on Blinkit, they're saying that it'll grow at 60% CAGR and will break even on adjusted EBITDA level in the next 4 quarters. Now, adjusted EBITDA is a difficult term to comprehend, but because Zomato is walking the talk, you give them the benefit of doubt that they kind of not adjusting it only to suit their purposes, maybe. Zomato is guided for profitable earnings going forward. And how good a result this might be is evident from the fact by the note from Jeffries. Now, there are different people who are writing this differently. I think I saw a dollar capital note, which is still having a sell number, though I suspect that uh, looking at the trend, that might not be necessarily the right call from a stock perspective because the trend is in favor of Zomato. Look at the Jeffries note. I think that sums it up even better. Forget the buy and the target price, but just look at what they're saying. But yes, they have a buy. They've sharply raised the EBITDA and revised target price to 130. Now, they say that Zomato achieved a key milestone of adjusted EBITDA and consolidated PAT positive way earlier than guidance, 3 quarters ahead, as I said. It says that this result puts to rest all the concerns, more importantly, around Zomato's ability to make respectable profits. I think that is really an important thing. The results also give more credibility to the management and its execution prowess, and particularly positive for Blinkit, which most investors ascribe zero or negative value. Now, imagine viewers, thus far, Blinkit, no value, Zomato gaining traction, people buying into it. Now they've delivered a very good performance on Zomato. So the current uptrend is for Zomato. Imagine if Blinkit delivers a surprise, which most people, I mean, including most people that have been, except one investor or except two investors maybe, are kind of not that constructive. By the way, here's a deal. If you don't have the ability to do the whole deep research, there is a very good show. There is a very good episode on our series called Insight that we did with Pankaj Murarka of Renaissance Capital and Sanjeev Bikhchandani joining in to talk about the new age internet businesses. They've been on a roll for the last few days. If you want to hear more about it, I urge you go and hear that 30-minute conversation. It gives you a perspective into a way of thinking. I'm not saying that is the only way to think, that is necessarily the right way to think, but considering what the companies are doing of late, it may be a right way to think about it. It's a beautiful conversation with Sanjeev Bikhchandani, more importantly, weighing in. So do tune in for that right here. It is on YouTube, it is on Twitter, it is on our website. But yeah, this particular episode of Insight is a really cool one. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, Pankaj Murarka in conversation with me on BQ Prime. So try and tune in for that. But watch out for Zomato. Could be interesting one today. Just one last piece on Zomato. I don't want to extend it too much, but the probability that there is a large deal or an OFS coming in around the corner might play on some investors' mind. And yes, when it comes, if it's not, I mean, there might be a bit of a hit on the stock price as well, depending on how keen the investor is to get out anytime in the next 10 days. But be mindful of that. Lupin is the other one. I'm talking about Pharma being a beat. Look at what Lupin has done. Revenue is up 29% at 4814 crores versus 3744. The estimates was 4441. So beat there. EBITDA 856. The expectation was 686. But look at the quantum of performance as well. 422%, nearly 4x or 5x higher. Margins at 17.8 versus 4.4. The estimates were 15.4. So beat there too, and a net profit at 452 crores versus the net loss. The expectation was 258 crores. The results came late last night. I haven't read any notes here, but I'm sure the notes are constructive. This is a beautiful performance from Lupin. I would suspect that it could lead the Pharma pack today. Eicher Motors. Now, this one is a bit tricky. It's the it's the best ever Q1 performance for the company. It's also the fourth consecutive quarter of highest ever revenue from operations and profit after tax for iSure. So what are the performance like? Revenue is up 17%. On that base, it's in line with estimates. EBITDA 23%, 1,021, 968, again almost in line with estimates. Net profit though, and EBITDA margins 25.6 versus 24, so that is a beat. And net profit at 918 versus expectation of 848, more than 5%. So you classify that as a beat as well. So this is a good performance. The problem is when I read the notes, most people are saying that yes, they've done really well, but there is competition ahead. And we remember we spoke about this when the auto sales numbers came out, that I sure for the first time in so many years, Royal Enfield kind of logged in a slightly soft month. So is competition now playing up? Are people buying the Triumphs and the Harley Davidsons? Point to ponder. I still believe the stock may react, but um, the runway is littered with competition there, and therefore there might be some gaps there. MGL, relative to what Gujarat Gas has done, is coming out smelling like roses. Revenues up 5.71%, EBITDA up 82%, margins 33.9 versus 19.63. It's a positive surprise at the EBITDA margins at 16.8 rupees per SCM, which was much ahead of the street estimates. Though you have to admit that the volume growth disappointed, and hence you see the revenues not being that great, but margins, EBITDA, net profit looking very strong. And therefore, relative to Gujarat Gas, MGL did really well. The stock may react. HCC may react, was up about 5% yesterday. Revenues up 15%. EBITDA 11% was up 11%. Margins 12.6 versus 1.17. Net profit 52.73 versus a loss of 280 crores. You have to excuse us here for the margin piece here. This is as per our calculations, as per the investor presentation that the companies put up. The EBITDA margin is 12.26 versus 10. But I rechecked the calculations, and I think that what we've given out is the reported margin, which is 12.26 versus 1.17, and therefore a strong beat there. Net profit good. So I would suspect that the street may reward HCC's numbers. Anyways, some of these days, the the infra companies are doing really well. Navneet Education, revenues up 93%, margins at 26 versus 14, net profit up 6x at 144 versus 22.9. Strong quarter, could do well. KEC beat estimates, if I'm not wrong. Revenues up 27%, EBITDA up 45, margins expand a little bit, net profit up 36%, better than estimated, so could do well. Cummins, very strong quarter, maybe slightly lower than estimated, but a very strong quarter. Revenues up 30%, EBITDA up 59, margins at 15.4, net profit 78% uptick, surely could do well. What will not do well is Deepak Nitrite. Revenue is down 14% at 1768 versus 2057. The estimates were 1896. So lower than estimated even on that base. EBITDA down 41% at 209. Expectations were 316. Margins 11.86 versus estimates of 16.69. A really bad performance by Deepak Nitrite on the operational metrics, unfortunately. Net profit down 36% at 149 versus 258. Now the thing is, viewers, they are the unequivocal leaders of the phenol business. They're setting up some really good projects from what I hear in the notes, or from what I read in the notes. And therefore, much like what happened to maybe a lot of us, I think the commentary from Deepak will be important. If we're able to speak to them, I think the commentary from the company might be very important about how they see the next 2 or 3 quarters. Because remember, chemical companies, for a lot of them, are kind of making a bit of a turnaround in base businesses. You hear, for example, I'm forgetting Mihir Vora of Max Life talking about this in the conversation a few days back. What how he believes spec chem and chemical is a bit of a dark horse because the worst of the quarters may be behind them. So I hope we can talk to the management, or maybe the con call, if we can, we'll try and log in. My colleague Varsha would try and log in and try and get the excerpts of the con call about the management confidence about what happens right now. They may not be, because they're known to speak the call a spade a spade. So if it is not looking good, they will probably say it. But if they say that it is looking okay, then that might actually give a bit of a floor on the stock. But I do believe that the stock and duly should react negatively today. So watch out for that. But just before we get to other stocks in news, there's a query about what's the view on Suzlon Energy and is the turnaround for real? Well, This is from Abhinandan Nardekar. Yes, Abhinandan, thanks for the query. Just a limited point. I'm no one to advise on what the stock could do, but the business, well, wind energy seems to be turning around. If you just hear what the con calls of Inox Wind as well as Suzlon, what they are saying on the calls, it seems that there is a big demand for renewable for their products, and we know that the demand for renewable energy is looking very, very strong. The government targets are out there. So if the government walks the talk and does all of those, then surely this turnaround seems to be for real. Now, is it in the price? Is it not in the price? I'm not sure, by the way. But the turnaround is for real. Uh, I mean, if there were brokerage notes, I would have brought you, but I don't have anything handy. But Abhinandan, it seems that wind energy is looking solid. Now, some other stocks in news. Mahindra and Mahindra. Temasek will invest about 145 million in Mahindra Electric. The deal values the company at about $9.8 billion valuation. The valuation is good. The street whisper number on the quantum of money coming in was slightly higher. And therefore, I don't know if the street gets disappointed with this or is excited by this. Mahindra and Mahindra also has results today, so bear that in mind. In fact, that brings RBL Bank also in focus, right? Because I'm sure on the calls, people will ask Mahindra and Mahindra about their strategy for RBL, and what they say about the RBL Bank strategy could well impact the stock. Well, yesterday, RBL just in the last few minutes of trade just took a big nosedive. So it'll be interesting to see what RBL Bank does today. Today and Monday, depending on what happens on the Mahindra call as well. Vedanta is the other stock in focus, by the way. Vedanta Resources outlook has been cut to negative by S&P. This stock could be under some pressure. Whisper also, as a street whisper also has it that there could be some large selling that could come in. So be mindful for Vedanta. Longs out here might not be very, very advisable. Bannari Aman Sugars, revenues were up 0.97%, but margins did okay. Reported net profit is down 47%, but that is because the base quarter had other income of 33.93 crores versus 1.24 crores in quarter one, and hence the reported net profit looks low. Otherwise, it could have been better, by the way. And something that has beaten the street estimates is also LIC Housing Finance. NI up 39%, NIMS 3.21 versus 2.51, profit after tax up 43% at 1323 versus 925. So could do well. And last stock on my list today is Krishna Diagnostics. There is a filing that has happened that the High Court of Rajasthan has passed a judgment in favor of Krishna with respect to a matter related to an LOA by National Health Mission for providing lab services. It's a project worth 450 crores. The High Court has directed the company and TCIL to fulfill conditions, and the authorities are willing to go ahead with the agreement and execute the project. So this could be a big shot in the arm for Krishna Diagnostics. So watch out for this stock as well today. Query about what I views on Phantom Digital. I'm so sorry, I have zero idea about this stock, so can't really comment on it. But from Abhishek, I'm very sorry for that. But just watch out for Pharma, watch out for some bit of relief today if indeed the world markets stay up. But the yields are higher, and that is unequivocally a bit of a negative for risk assets. So bear that in mind, particularly tech-based. But tech-based businesses, Zomato, etc., are all in focus today. So let's see how they do. Thanks for tuning into the trade setup. A bunch of conversations lined up today. Like I said, Amit Verma of Quadria Capital at 10 a.m. today. A touch of corporate conversations a bit later on. AkzoNobel at 10:30. Veer Advani of Blue Star at 11:30. Lupine, the big one, at 12. And Ashwath Ram of Cummins Johnson at 1 to talk about their strong quarter as well. So a lot of very interesting conversations lined up on the show. And of course, the alternative bet, the second episode of the alternative bet plays out today. You want to tune in for that. We discuss the private credit industry in detail with New Asset Management.
Most of the industry started post 2016.
Okay.
So which means that over a 6-7 year period, this industry has become more than 50,000 crore in terms of size.
Okay.
At this point of time, it is attracting investments more than 10,000 crores every year. It is growing at a pace of more than 12%. The growth definitely is significantly faster than either banking credit or public equities. I would say that among the various sub-segments in financial industry, this segment is growing among the fastest at this point of time.